It's system building time. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. So, how's everyone doing today? It's been about a week and a half since my last vlog, and I have to apologize to you guys. I've been really swamped with regular client work, and of course I'm building the new PC, which I'm going to show you guys today. And I just want to kind of recap what I'm doing. I did a video about 2 weeks ago or so now, and I was saying how I was moving from a Mac to a PC, or I might be moving from a Mac to a PC. And I gave reasons, and the reasons kind of were, well, the Mac really wasn't doing it for me anymore. The machine that I had was not powerful enough in my thought or in my view, and the current line that Apple offered is just simply too expensive for exactly what I need. It was going to be about $5-6 grand, I think it was, and I believed that I would be able to put together a similar machine for under $2 grand. So what I did is I picked up parts. And what I'll do is I'll go through the parts just so you know what we're dealing with if you didn't watch last video. And what I did is I picked up a case, which was a Corsair Carbide 400C, as well as a motherboard, which was the Asus Prime X370 Pro, which is a really great motherboard. Also, I picked up, as far as the CPU goes, I didn't go Intel, which I always do. I ended up going Ryzen, which is the AMD. I haven't built an AMD build for literally years and years and years. So I figured, well, you know what? The new system's out. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. So that's what we did. I got the Ryzen 1700. It is a 3 gigahertz CPU that turbos up to 3.7 gigahertz, right around there. And all that I've heard about it was really good things. Instead of being a quad core, it is an 8 core with 16 threads. And as you guys know, as content editors or as photographers, as videographers, when you're doing editing, cores are king, right? The more cores, the more threads going on in the background processing, the better off you are as far as render times. So, and that's what I was having a lot of problems with, was my render times are starting to get just absurd. They were, instead of a 1:1 or even a 1:2 ratio, it was sometimes 1:4. So like a 5-minute video, instead of it taking 5 minutes to render or maybe a little bit longer, it was taking like 20 minutes, it just was too much. And then as soon as you start getting longer, it just exponentiates. So some renders would take 2.5 hours, 3 hours to render. It's just not possible. So we need a new machine. So we went with this. As far as the graphics board, we ended up going with an MSI Armor, which was an overclocked 8 gig GTX 1070, which in my thought, I believe it to be enough. We weren't gaming, so I don't really need a 1080 or 1080 Ti, but a 1070 would be good enough. So that's what we bought, because I'm trying to keep the price of this system down so that if I can make this work, it would be something that you guys could use for your editing or for your content creation. All right. So I ended up with a EVGA power supply, which ended up being good. I originally picked up some Corsair memory, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And that was the Corsair LPX 3000. That's what we talked about in the last video. It was 32 gigs. Instead of buying 16 gigs, which would probably be good enough, I wanted to just give it 32 gigs right out the get-go. Also, what I did was I picked up 2 sticks of 16 gigs. This way, since I have 4 slots on the motherboard for RAM, which will take me up to 64 gigs, I can later on down the road, instead of having to throw memory away, I could just add 2 more 16 gig modules in there, and now I'm up to 64 gigs. It just made more sense for future proofing, let's just call it. So we went with that. I didn't get into the actual display because I didn't buy one as of yet, but I did, and I'll get into that in a couple of seconds. Also, we picked up Microsoft's Windows 10. I didn't go with 8, 8.1, which a lot of people say is a little bit more stable. I said, you know what? I'm just going to give this thing a shot. I'm just going to go full bore, all new stuff, right? So we went Windows 10 Professional Edition, right? And I got a USB retail version key. So I could just go and install it. I didn't have to download anything. No, moving parts, no DVD to deal with, okay? So that was the system in a whole. And I started building it, and I had my son come in and he did some video for me, and I made it almost like a learning process for him as well. Not only using the camera, taking pictures and video and moving things around and whatnot, but I also made it like a little bit of an educational thing of him actually watching me and helping me build this machine from ground up. I wish I had that when I was, 9 years old.
provides warranty programs to deliver you the peace of mind you deserve when using our product.
Came together really well. There was no problems with putting anything into this Corsair 400C. It was a really, really nice box. It has a lot of places where you can guide your cables through for cable management, which I really like. The motherboard fit in absolutely flawlessly, whereas sometimes, you know, they're kind of kludgy. It's like a little bit off and you're kind of pushing things a little bit and whatnot. But this actually fit everything absolutely perfect, which was just, wow, 2 thumbs up to Corsair for that. Everything came together really well. And once we wanted to get this thing up and rolling, you know, to post, it wouldn't run. Okay, it would start up and you would see the fans rolling and everything looked good, but there was no video. So I figured, well, you know what? I just take everything out of it, only just 1 stick of memory, and just plug it right into the HD output on the board itself. Not even use the GTX 1070, right? And it just didn't work. So I called Asus, right? And, you know, I told them what was going on and we worked through it for a while, probably about 15 minutes. And what they came up with was that specific motherboard with Ryzen. For some reason, the Intel HD, the video on the board itself doesn't work just standalone. And the reason it probably doesn't work is because it's the new Ryzen chipset and whatnot. It's still almost like in beta form. It's not really beta, but it's only been out for, you know, a couple of months now. So there has to be a BIOS update to fix it. They said, you know what, throw your video board in it again. Don't use the onboard video, use your GTX 1070 video. And I did, and everything worked. So thank you, Asus. It worked out really well. And it was only about a 15-minute conversation. So, you know, 2 thumbs up. Now, once the system posted and we were in the BIOS, everything was running really good. We were at 3.0 gigahertz and all the memory was coming up, 32 gigs. Everything looked fantastic. So I started the installation of Windows 10 Professional. Now, once again, I had a retail stick. This is a retail little key. So I put that in and I'm running it and it keeps on saying file error this, file error that. Now, usually when that happens, it's a motherboard problem or possibly even a memory problem, right? So I called Asus again. I'm like, hey guys, you know, I'm still not working, right? Thank you for fixing the motherboard issue when it came to the video. No problem. I appreciate it. But now we're having a problem with Windows. So I asked them, I said, listen, this is what it's doing. It's giving me this error message. What do you guys think? I was on with them, guys, for probably, I would say, about 2 hours. We went through everything, resetting the motherboard, clearing everything out, doing everything that was just I could even dream of, or tech support, you know, tier 2 was able to dream about also. and we found nothing. Finally, after about 2 hours of not being able to install Windows 10 Professional off this USB key, they said, you know what, we're going to have to escalate this to a tier 3 level support, and maybe it's a BIOS issue. We don't know. This has never happened. So I said, all right, no problem. They said they were going to call me once again in the morning. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I said, you know what, I'm going to have to call this good. I'm going to go to sleep. And once I wake up, I'm going to just, maybe with a clear head, I can think this through. I have to wait for tier 3 level tech support to call me anyways, right? So in the morning, I got up. I said, you know what, maybe there's something wrong with Windows 10. I never heard of a retail copy being bad ever, but I don't know. Let me go head over to Best Buy and go pick up another copy. So that's what I did. I picked up another copy of the Windows 10 Professional retail version on the little USB key and brought it back to the studio. And I swear, guys, immediately when I plugged it in, it ran and installed. I'm like, oh my God, it was like, 2+ hours worth of tech support, trying to figure out if it's memory, if it's motherboard, what is the issue? And I end up getting a bad copy of Windows 10 right from Amazon. And it was a sealed box, a sealed retail box. I've never seen that ever, but it is what it is. So we ended up getting that running. Everything looked really good. I ended up looking at the overclock at that point and saying, well, let's see how far we can overclock this so it doesn't turbo up to 3.7, but we just overclock it to maximum. So I ended up overclocking the unit up to 4 gigahertz using the stock fan, which is like a Wraith Spire, I believe. Really cool fan, LED in it and whatnot. But it would post and it would actually boot into Windows at 4 gigahertz, but it just wouldn't hold. If I ran benchmarking tests on it, it would reboot or just do funky stuff. So I knew it just wasn't going to, hold at that. And I was all the way up to like 1.45 volts, which is a ton. We don't want to pump that many volts through these things. So it just takes down the longevity of it, and it just doesn't last as long. And plus your fans are just sitting at full tilt to try to keep up with the heat. So I got it to 3.75 gigahertz stable. So the next thing was I looked at the memory itself to see how I can get it to run at the 3000 megahertz, which it was rated at. It was only posting at, I think it was 2133 or something. I was able to overclock it to 2400, and that was it. And it was stable. But I said, this just, I bought 3000 megahertz memory. I can't get it above 2400. Why don't I pick up some Ryzen specific, Ryzen certified memory for it? So that's what I did. I traded out the Corsair LPX 3000 memory for a set of G.SKILL Flare X, and it is Ryzen certified memory. It's at 2400. That's what it's rated for. Now, I ended up trying both of these out, and what was really interesting, and I'm sure you don't hear a lot about this, but the Ryzen specific memory was able to run at only 1.2 volts, so it was cooler, whereas the other memory had to run at 1.35, so it was hotter at that same 2400 level. The issue was that every time I had a problem with overclocking, I would have to reset the motherboard to scratch and start over again. Whereas with the Ryzen memory, I didn't have to do that. It just, it posted 3 times. If it failed, it just fell back to the last usable version. So that was really interesting. I said, well, we might as well keep that Ryzen specific or quote unquote Ryzen compatible memory and just move forward with that. And now, since it's running at 1.2 volts, later on, if I want to overclock that memory down the road, I have extra headroom. I can go to 1.35 or even 1.4 and overclock it. But for now, let's just leave everything nice and cool the way it is. So that's what I ended up doing. Now, the cooling issue was, to me, a problem because running it at that 3.75 gigahertz was still producing a lot of heat. It was sitting at about 85 under full load centigrade, which is extremely hot. You're getting close to 200 degrees. So I said, let me go and water cool this. It's not that much to get a standalone water cooled system, just over $100, and that's what I ended up doing. I took out that Wraithspire stock CPU cooler and I replaced it with the Corsair Hydro H110i. And wow, guys, wow. The temps under full load went down from like 85 centigrade down to like 50 centigrade, maybe even 45. I mean, literally 35 to 40 degrees difference. That was absolutely amazing. Also, I was able to now push it from 3.75 gigahertz all the way up to 3.925 gigahertz, fully stable. Absolutely loved it, and it's running ice cold. So for me, it was really worth it. And for you guys, if you're building one of these systems and you go Ryzen, they do run hot, and I would recommend spending the extra $100 and getting a water-cooled system right out the get-go. So this way, you can build it right the first time. You don't have to take it apart like I did and have to pull the old CPU and get all the gook off and then rebuild it again. Not that it took a long time, but just do it right the first time. Learn from my mistakes, so to speak. So the bottom line here is, guys, where I leave off right now with is benchmarking. What I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to close here a little bit with my thoughts on everything, but going into the next video, I'm going to give you some benchmarks on what I found it to be in comparison to a stock Ryzen 1700 to what I currently have, number one. And then even more importantly, guys, my i7 3 gigahertz that I'm using on the Mac side. What is the render time difference? What are the real world differences? And what is the synthetic differences using different benchmarking software that I can use on both Apple and PC. So that's what I'm going to give you in the next video. So definitely stay tuned to that. But for right now, I would have to say in closing, this has been a really fun process. I absolutely love it. It just makes me feel good. It was really great to be able to, hang out with my son, be able to build this thing from scratch, see it actually work, and then kind of move on from there. Now, what I ended up doing, guys, is I picked up a new display, and I have to tell you guys, this display is just unbelievable. I was really debating back and forth with going with a display unit type of setup with that bar down the center, have 227 inches or 225 inches, like my current setup was with the Mac. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go widescreen with it. And I ended up getting the Dell 34-inch monitor. And this thing is just, God, it's just beautiful. I don't even know. It's absolutely beautiful. It runs at like 60 hertz, but I've overclocked it to, I overclock everything, right, guys? I overclocked it to 80 hertz and it works just flawlessly. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And to be able to throw a timeline on 34 inches, guys, it's massive, okay? And that really is a cool, a cool way to process these videos to me. I was kind of getting tired of doing, main screen here, other screen here, main screen here. And then if I wanted to combine the two, having the black bar up the center, it's just enough. Okay. So I was buying a new monitor anyway, so I decided to spend the extra cash and get the 34-inch. I absolutely love this thing is amazing. So in closing, I would have to say, so far everything is going really, really well. Definitely stay tuned to the next video where I start doing some comparisons and in benchmarking and what I think about using it for a week at that point. Also, don't forget, in the description below this video, you'll see a list of all the different items that I've talked about and some of the items that I haven't talked about yet. If you click on any of those Amazon links, of course, it helps me out a lot. I would appreciate it, but everything is there at your disposal, so you don't have to go and hunt around for it. So if you really want to know about that G.SKILL memory, for example, you just go click on it and you can go see the exact memory that I used. If you have any questions, now I got a lot of feedback that some of you guys are like, hey, Joe, can you build me, one of these machines? I'll send you all the parts or whatever. Under certain circumstances, I might build a couple of these for some of you guys out there. Just ask me about it and I'll kind of talk to you a little bit in private about it. But As far as the video itself goes, don't forget to comment on this video. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts about my process, what I'm using, what your thoughts are as being a PC user, or what your thoughts are being an Apple user. Bear in mind, I use Apple PC as well as Unix or Linux. To finalize, if you enjoy the content, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because it'll really help me out a lot. And head over to my website, jchristina.com, where you can find a lot of photography tools that I've invented for photographers just like you. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.